Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
And we are back for part two. Of course, we were talking to Polly Walshin.
Got it right.
It sounds like, yes.
Yeah, yes.
And we're talking about the book Daddy Issues. And we got kind of cut off. It's never happened. We actually had a blackout, which I'm glad it wasn't. It was a very simple thing, and we found out that it was. But it was just weird because we were going full guns and things were going really good with the interview. And we were talking about a lot of fascinating things about your father, who was involved with, he was the pilot for the Iran-Contra scandal that took place. And a lot of people probably don't know that story. They know the Hollywood version of that story, which is the Tom Cruise movie.
Right.
But so we were talking about Pretty Polly before we got cut off. Let's go into the Pretty Polly part.
Okay.
Tell me what that means.
So, well, I feel like we got cut off on purpose. I feel like that was like a divine intervention so that people can get what I'm going to tell them now, because it can help you. And I feel like this is for somebody out there that's listening right now that had the same problem, so that they can get a grip on that. They don't have to be in their 50s before they finally get a grip on that. So growing up, I was always like Pretty Polly. So like I did NASCAR, I did Snap-on Tools, I was Miss Jim Beam, I did Copper Tone, I did beauty pageants. It was always about outside. And I still struggle, right? I still struggle with like, am I pretty enough? Am I skinny enough? Are my teeth white enough? Like all this stupid superficial stuff, because that's what we do as women a lot, is we focus on the outside because we don't have any control over anything else. So when I finally started really digging into the book and writing, which I suggest anyone that's out there, if you have something inside of you, start journaling, start writing. It is a cathartic process. And so what I learned through this whole thing of being Pretty Polly, what I wrote about in the book, is that was a cover up, because I didn't feel like that. I felt like I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't good enough. I couldn't do this. I always had an underlying sense that I was going to fail.
Well, maybe a lot of that had to do with what happened with your father.
Of course.
And being overly protected by your mom, who was really, worried about you, wanted to make sure you were protected, which, of course, you're going to make somebody feel, but all those things you've talked about. Yeah. Insecure.
Yeah. And my mom was, she's like a legit angel. Like
your mom's still alive?
Yeah. She lives a mile away from me.
Oh, good.
And I'm an only child. And my mom never remarried. So it's always been me and Claudia.
Right.
Always. She's amazing. So she was I was always her everything. So her job and making sure I had more than she had growing up, because she grew up like on a little farm, and then she didn't have a lot growing up, and she just wanted to like make sure I didn't have a life like that.
Sure.
And in that process, she was like doting, like she kind of doted on me. And I was always a deep person, but I always just thought like, what's wrong? Like, you know what I mean? And I can even remember like, because I didn't have a dad, like all my cousins, I was super close to them growing up in this little tiny town in Arkansas. And we had Christmas and Thanksgiving there and all these different times. And my grandpa, who's dead now, he was like my dad. This is like a 2-second story. I won't take very long.
No, I'm curious as to where
it goes back to Pretty Polly. So when I was little, I just loved my grandparents, because I had to be there in the summers because my mom had to work and she needed someone to watch me. So I got very close to them.
That's the way I was raised, by the way.
Really?
My grandparents.
Yeah.
Well, my mom worked.
Yeah, totally. So they were like, they stepped in. They had to.
They were your world.
They were the rock. Like that was the phone number I gave, 501-842-2722. I gave that number to everybody because they were never going to move.
You knew there was a consistency,
stability. I mean, my mom kept it stable too, but it
in
was
a different way. There's really a lot that has to be said, and I think this is one of the biggest problems in the country. I think not having, and it doesn't matter, it could be a man or a woman, but not having a person at home, or having some grandparents that can be there in a routine day in and day out, that makes a huge difference. When you try to have one person trying to do everything.
Exactly. Well, I was going to go into this other thing, but you're taking a different direction, which is a really good thing. So
let's go into your direction, because this is your interview. So let's not take that away from you.
Yeah, no, I was going to talk about my grandpa buying me this little dress when I was 6, and I'll tell that. And that goes back into the thing that you just said. So he bought me a dress. He had never bought anybody anything And it was the most beautiful little brown corduroy dress, right? And I just like, I came home, my mom's like, oh my God, he bought you a dress. And I love my papa, loved him. And my grandma was Mimi. And they're just like, we're the greatest people ever. And do you know I never wore that dress? Because I was so afraid of my cousins being jealous that I was their favorite. And so
I would have wore it. I don't even wear dresses.
You might not. You're a man, though.
I'm his favorite, or I'm their favorite, and actually everybody knew. And when they both passed in my situation, everybody's like, well, everybody knows that you were their favorite,
right?
So everybody knew it.
Oh, I wish I would have been you. That would have been awesome.
No, because you know what it is even though you didn't wear the dress, I bet you your family members knew you were the favorite.
Yeah, they did. Well, they all were like, well, you're probably his favorite. But so I never told them. And in this writing, I figured out like, oh, I didn't want anyone to feel bad because I didn't want to be not liked. I mean, who thinks that at 5 years old? Like, I don't want to be not liked by my cousin.
It's not the normal, let's watch Barney today.
Like, hey, I want to go outside and play with my friends. And I was like, oh, I don't want to wear that dress. I don't want my cousins to be mad at my grandpa. I'm his favorite, And so when you were talking about two parents at home, that is the most important thing.
Or somebody like
important, a stable person.
It would say you don't have a dad. In your case, you didn't have the dad. And so the grandparents were there and your mom worked.
Every family, every kid in America needs two parents. I don't care if you're not married, you're not together. Dads are super important. I
don't disagree with you.
They really form your identity of how you feel about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Moms are a different aspect, but kids need something. They need both. And if it's not a dad, it's a grandpa, it's an uncle. It's someone that can step in as that masculine figure of like protection, guidance. It's just so important to have that in America. That's why I wrote the book. I don't want people to be in their 50s making mistakes like I made. I want them to be teenage, get that nipped in the bud, and just like, then they get to have a life they actually were called to live. That is my biggest goal in the world is for my mess to be the message. That's the goal.
I like that. My mess to be the message.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Did you just come up with that?
Yeah.
Sounds like another book coming.
Yeah. I definitely have another book.
I'll write that down. Remember that. Mess to a message.
Mess to a message. Yeah. Might be called Daddy Issues in Weed World or something crazy like that. Who knows?
Well, it's a very profitable market. There's probably a lot of people you could sell it to.
Probably true.
So what would you want anybody that's listening to the second part of the interview and catch the first part if you missed it, which you probably did, but things that are great about the whole internet is that you can go back and revisit all the past shows. But what do you want people to take from your experience? One thing that stands out in your mind.
I know. So if you are constantly picking the wrong guy or picking the wrong girl or getting yourself into drama that you shouldn't be, or you feel like you're not enough, constantly feeling like you're not enough, and maybe your dad left you, he abused you, he neglected you, you did not get what you needed from your father as a child, that you need to understand it had nothing to do with you. And I'm going to say it again, it had nothing to do with you. Period. And if you can just get that distinction, because the minute I felt like my dad just left, he didn't leave me, he just left. When I got that distinction, everything changed. So that's the most important thing I could leave with people.
But it took a lot of therapy for you to come to that conclusion. Is it possible for somebody with that message and the book to be able to get that information without having all the experience? And
yes,
so that's why I think you need to do a continuation course with this, because I think it's very easy to go back to your old habits.
Oh yeah.
And when you have a support group, it keeps you engaged with not going back.
Well, because you have accountability. Like you have to, there's a scripture that says it's about renewing your mind every day. You have to renew your mind every day. Keep your thoughts on things that are good, that are going to nourish your soul. You have to take your thoughts captive, whatever that is, that's going to make you go do a repeat of what you've done in the past, and just say, okay, I know that that's my tendency to go do X, Y, and Z. I know you have to face, whatever you resist, persist, right? If you resist it, it will persist.
Yes.
So you don't do that. You take your thought captive. You say, I know that that's what I have a tendency to do. Thank you very much. exit out the door, shut the flesh up, and you're out of here.
Shut the flesh up.
Shut the flesh up.
Okay. So is there a website that you have or anything that people can go to for some of this stuff?
I do. It's www.yougotdaddyissues.com.
Say it one more time.
www.yougotdaddyissues.com.
Okay.
And it's scrolling.
It's scrolling at the bottom. But just for people that maybe have just tuned away for a little bit, maybe you're doing something and you can go back and revisit this. But I think it's very vital, and we have not done a story like yours before or on that subject. So I think it was a great fit today. I think we all can connect or relate in even a small way or in some way, maybe not exactly the same way.
Yeah.
But we need to heal a world right now that has a lot of pain.
Yeah. And that's through, like, we talk often said about, family members. Like, if we disagree on things, that we have to focus on what we do, what we have in common.
I think the hardest thing is forgiveness for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Forgiving yourself, forgiving others. But also forgiving might mean that maybe you just forget what the person did to you. Doesn't mean you have to be best friends and hang out and go grab a cup of Joe.
Correct.
A lot of people think, well, they're not talking to me. Well, that might not be anything to do with you. Like you said, it might not be your fault at all. Maybe it's the other person's fault because they don't want to talk to you because you don't believe the same thing they do. Or maybe there's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But forgiveness has a lot of different variables.
Well, boundaries are important.
Sure.
Boundaries are super important. And when you have boundaries, you can learn to be okay with having someone at afar and still loving them. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need that toxicity. If it's going to cause you to get off the path of what you're supposed to do, you don't really need that in your life. But sometimes we always want to go back and revisit it, because we miss the person. Sometimes we really miss people in our life that are like that.
And you think maybe if we've given something time, we go back to it, it's going to be different.
Yeah. And that's like insanity, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah. Well, everybody, this has been a great show. Please subscribe, of course, to our YouTube IQ Podcast channel so you can you don't miss any of the shows, or this, of course, part one of the original show.
And can I thank somebody? Do you mind if I thank someone in air?
Absolutely.
So I just want to thank Dale. You're amazing for introducing me to these great man and his beautiful wife. And you are one of the best men I've ever met.
He is a phenomenal. He's still consistently in my life.
He's awesome.
I feel bad because we are constantly, as you know, we work a lot of hours, and I feel bad that we're not able to spend more time with everybody. But we're going to start working on getting together more with people that we love, like Dale.
That's what we learned during this whole thing, is that you cannot take time for granted. You need to spend it with people you love.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. Paulie, thank you so much for being on my show.
Oh, thank you. I really honestly,
Miss Walshin.
Walshin. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It really means a lot.
Sure. Thank you. You're thanking me for flubbing your name up anytime.
I don't care about stuff like that. I just was obedient and wrote the book. That's all. Now I'm just what's next?
Remember, the name of the book is Daddy Issues, and it can be purchased where?
On Amazon.
There you go. Everybody take care. God bless. Be nice to each other.
Yeah.
And let's try to start living in a very godlike way, to where we just treat everybody very respectful and nice. And we all can be reminded to be that way.
Yeah.
Myself included.
Me too.
Okay. Everybody take care. And of course, my sponsors, who have been very blessed. We've been very blessed to be with them. And of course, Attorney King.
He's awesome. I used him once in one of my things. He's the coolest guy ever.
Really? Well, you came out while you're walking. You look great.
Yeah, look at that. I'm a healed. I was in 40 pieces.
Way to go. You want to say something to Attorney King?
Hey, King, you are amazing. And by the way, if I could have that smile, holy cow.
You do have a smile.
No, his teeth are gorgeous. His smile is gorgeous.
You don't usually say this about people. At least I don't, about attorneys. He's a gorgeous looking guy.
Well, his office is freaking phenomenal. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's like a palace.
Right. Well,
pretty cool guy.
Yes. Thank you, King, for your love and your support and everything you do in the community. We love working with you. And of course, IQ podcast, Sarah Morga, who's runs the show and is the glue of the show. Even though she's not a sponsor, she owns the show, of course. And of course, Saquon, who's a big supporter of our show.
I love that place.
Yeah, they're amazing. And of course, Cody Martinez, who typically works with us on our Academy Award for school teachers.
Oh, I used to be a school teacher.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to talk more about that. The teacher always learns from the student. And of course, IB Fitness, Marina Teal, who does a great show here. It's and Nikki Rottens, who just does an amazing.
I heard
they do amazing chicken sandwich. They do an amazing everything they do at Nikki Rottens, the drinks, everything. It is the place to go in Coronado. Tim Aaron does a little bit of a podcast here with us. It's really on the edge. Howard Stern texted me the other day, and I guess he was blushing. And we did it with Marina Teal, who's another, but the two of them together made Howard Stern blush.
I was Miss Howard Stern from Georgia back in the day.
Howard Stern is the man.
He's funny.
Yes. And of course, Brent Wilsey, thank you for being a partner and supporting our show. We look forward to doing more stuff with you. And did we leave anybody else? There's just so many good, valuable community support members that we have.
You thank yourself.
Well, I don't thank myself because I just basically my wife props me up every day. And if it wasn't for her, I don't know what I would do. Sarah, thank you again.
Oh, you are a lucky man.
I'm a blessed man.
Yeah, you are.
Hard work. Man. If you do enough hard work over a period of time,
True.
Things come to you and you're prepared. I don't consider that luck.
Yeah. There's a thing about called grace.
Okay.
You have a lot of grace in your life. I think because you're good. You're good. Inside.
I do appreciate that. And I love what I do. And I love what IQ Podcast is doing not in the world. As you can see, we have our world map, but
I love it.
We have family all over the place because of this wonderful podcast and magazines and shows that we do. So thank you everybody for your support. Everybody take care. And remember, be nice to each other. Yeah. Have a good weekend.